Welcome. We're so excited that you're here for episode 22. Are you stressed? That's what we're calling it because who isn't stressed? Kristen, how are you doing?
I'm stressed. No,
Oh,
no, I'm good. But yeah, stress is just that's life sometimes, right? It's part of it here and there, right?
yeah. Well, as Kristen knows, as we're getting ready to start recording, I forgot my earbuds and I forgot a bunch of stuff. So I'm running around. So I'm certainly feeling a little of stress. And I notice it's like in my shoulders or a little bit in my chest. It's like, no, no, no. Deep breaths. You're going to be okay.
We both were deep breathing right before, and I was doing my face yoga. It wasn't really face yoga, but it was stretching out my smiler, as I said, because I felt like tension in my cheeks, and I thought, oh, I never noticed this before. Hey, but that's a good thing to keep in mind when we're talking about stress is, your body gives you signals about how you're doing. And a lot of times we ignore our bodies. Our body, I think I've said this probably in other posts, other podcasts, but the body does really keep the score, and it really does tell you when you're stressed or when you're upset. And I know specifically we talked about this thing in the last episode, and I'm thinking about it. But stress is certainly a thing that we sometimes just don't even realize it's going on in our bodies, and to really pay attention can really help us to know what to do to alleviate some of it. So that's just on the physical side of things, not the emotional, but still stress shows up physically, as we know.
Oh, yeah. And I appreciate that you said, eliminate some stress because living without any stress at all is not realistic. That's not the point. A certain level of stress is actually good for us. So, stress really, let's break it down, it's the body's response to challenge or demand. Just like if you're trying to build your muscles, you're going to stress them a little by using that resistance and they break down, but then they end up rebuilding and repairing and getting stronger. So, stress in and of itself isn't the bad part of it. It's our thoughts about it and what we make it mean and how it takes over our lives. And then all of a sudden, we're eating poorly, not sleeping, not exercising, in our head, beating ourselves up, just stressed. I mean, even the word, you say stress, and it's just like tension, and my shoulders kind of rise up a little closer to my ears, and just the word itself, bleh. But it doesn't have to be that way. And so that's what we're going to talk about this episode, just different ways to manage your stress. And we want to talk about, as Kristen mentioned, the physical aspects, the emotional aspects, and what we can do about it. So, first of all, stress in and of itself, as we mentioned, can be a good thing. But if you have too much of it, it's definitely going to affect you physically, let alone mentally. So, Kristen, give us some more information on how it physically affects us, if you don't mind.
Well, stress is a huge, huge factor. When I say stress, there's like eustress. It's EUSTRESS, which is actually the good kind of stress, which you were talking about, like the kind that motivates us into action and change. And it is actually defined as good stress. And it can happen when we're kind of in a flow state, like when we're in the present moment and we're doing something that feels good, like to our bodies, where we're exercising or something where there is a stress, but it's not distress. It's not negative and too much and overwhelming. So when you feel like that constant state of distress, that creates a lot of chemical changes in your body. Cortisol and adrenaline and other neurotransmitters are released, and that can create downstream health problems over time, chronic health problems, and that can lead to anti-inflammatory disorders, inflammation in the body, which leads to the anti-inflammatory states, immune function disorders, even to cancer. And there's, I'm not jumping to conclusions here, that there's research on that. So really, really catching what's causing your stress is very, very important. And when it's happening in your body, catching that as well. And we can talk more about what mentally and emotionally creates stress as well, because the mind, body, and soul connection is really, really a huge key in life, and everything is connected. So if you're experiencing health problems, there's a really good chance that there's some you can back it up to the way you're thinking about yourself and what you're believing about yourself and the trauma you may have experienced as a child or in your life, and just things that are going on and have gone on in your life that you need to really like take a look at, root out and heal, so that maybe the stress that you're feeling, just those kind of that kind of chronic stress can be worked through. Now, your job being hard and kids doing this and that, the daily stressors, those are just, we can't really eliminate that, but we can talk about how we can at least deal with the chaos better, be more at ease in the center of the storm, when that's brewing around us. So I hope that was helpful in terms of the physical stress, but yeah, it can create a lot of downstream problems medically.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the emotional part of the thought process, everything that goes into that aspect of it. But just backing up a little bit, just the actual being stressed state, like your heart rate goes a little faster, your blood pressure's up, maybe you feel fear or anger. You just notice it in your body, especially the more stressed you get. You just kind of, you're not yourself. Maybe you're a little irritable. People can just see it written all over your face. And as you mentioned, some stressors aren't all bad either. Like if you get a promotion at work or you have a new baby, those are actually positive things, but they do change life and add some stress. So it's not always a negative thing. Now, if your stress is manageable, then as Kristen stated, like you're still getting things done, it's spurring you towards action. You might feel a little overwhelmed, but you're overall still okay. But if it's too much stress and it's just affecting you all the time, then obviously, as coaches, we're going to want to say, what thoughts are leading you to this state? What are you telling yourself? What are you making this mean? We all have the same amount of time in the day. We all want to get things done. But if you don't get your to-do list done, are you okay with it? Or are you using that to beat yourself up? And that's going to lead to more stress. And then you, next thing you know, wake up and you're already stressed the second you wake up. Right. So we want to try and stop that process, get in between the thoughts and the stress and just slow it all down. We talk about this a lot, the deep breathing, asking yourself what's going on. Now, for me, last week, I had COVID and a sinus infection. So I was down. It hurt to be up. My head hurt if I sat up. I dropped everything I had to do. Fortunately, my husband could stay home for a couple of days and help with the kids who were in quarantine, who avoided me like the plague because they didn't want to get it and be stuck at home any longer than they had to be. But I noticed after I got out of it, Sunday, when I started feeling better, I was sick, but I wasn't stressed. Dig a little deeper, right? I let myself be sick. So I rested, I read, I watched TV, slept a lot. Boom, no stress. And then here we go, Monday morning, I can notice a big difference. That relaxation state, long gone. So I really had to get into my head, like, what am I making this mean? Why do I live like this? I can't live like I'm on vacation all the time. I can't drop all my responsibilities, but I also don't have to live so stressed out all the time. So it's been an eye-opening event for me. Not usually going to say I'm thankful for being sick, but I am. I'm thankful for last week. I learned a lot, especially about myself and how can I move forward and be more balanced and less stressed and still productive and, all those things that we want to be.
Yeah. The balance part, I was thinking that as you're telling that story, I was thinking maybe a good thing, you could tell me if I'm wrong here, but a good thing you may have come to is, or you can potentially come to is this idea of balance. Like, oh, okay, sometimes I can relax. I don't have to always be go, go, going. It actually does give me more energy to go, go, go when I actually take that time to lay around and read and just kind of relax a little bit. And, that's a good way to get out of the drama of the stress we're in. Just, and that could be, I have a million things on my to-do list. I'm not getting this all done, or my kids are all over the place, or people are acting crazy on the road, or whatever it is that's creating your stress. And then you decide, well, okay, they're going to do that stuff, and I'm going to go and read my book for a half hour so I can just
Mm.
calm down a little bit and just get back to kind of a reset, you know. So you go back into that crazy, stress, because we can't avoid that all the time, but there's a balance there. Then there's a little bit of like you time to have some self-care, phase in some more self-care, right? And another
Mhm.
thing I wanted to say, just real quick, adding on to the to-do list. Back in the 90s, when Stephen Covey's wonderful book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, was out, I loved that book. It like saved my life and my sanity. Um, and then he created a company where he created calendars, organizers, and I bought them. I just spent the money and I got got it, and to this day I still write in a calendar. I know people use their phones, but for me, getting out of my head out on a paper is
Mm.
so amazing. And I'm just going to credit him with saving my sanity, because he had this great system of you write down what you have to do. You put a little box next to it and you could check it off. You felt like really good that you did that, right? I mean, it wasn't like probably, the most earth shattering creation, but what it did was, oh, the little box though, if you didn't get it done that day and you knew you could get it done another day, you put an arrow, and that
Mm.
means it goes to the next day. I don't know why, but that just helped my life so much. Like I could sleep at night because it's
Mm.
it's written in my book. And like everyone to this day, people see me with my book, and some people feel sorry for me. I think some people might think I'm a crazy person, like that writes like manifestos on the side of vans or something. No offense to that. I don't mean crazy, but I mean that I maybe might have a problem because I write everything in this book. And I'm like, no, this is like the savior of my life. And some kid one time in a store said to me, "My mom does that stuff too." Like it was just like this crazy funny thing of, you know, this that I'm weird, or that maybe he thought I was great like his mom, because she does things like write everything in her life down in her book. But I tell you what, it saved my life, so I'm really glad for it.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. It's a great tip to just get it out on paper and prioritize, get your to-do list out of your head onto paper. Always a great idea. I will say for me, I have to really manage my expectations.
We need to stop.
I really have to be careful to keep my to-do list realistic, or I'll just go crazy and write down a million things I wouldn't even get done in a week. And then I'll feel badly later if I don't get them done. So for me, I love the to-do list, hate the to-do list. Love when I write it down and scratch it off. And sometimes there's stuff left. And then I'm like, no, move it to tomorrow, just like you were saying. But sometimes you don't get to it all, and that's all right. I do want to say some things that we know we can do. We'll get into this. Just throw these out there for people who feel stressed. Make sure you're exercising. And it doesn't have to be hours and hours in the gym. You don't even have to be that sweaty. Walking outside, great. If there's a little sunshine, even better, but just moving your body, getting out, walking, just that physical movement will really help process some of the stress. We're always going to talk about like eating healthy, getting enough water, make sure you're sleeping. If you can, quit smoking. Just gonna put that plug out there, not shaming anyone. I do think it's funny every time this comes up, meditation. I'm terrible at it, but it's something that I would like to adopt. You can meditate, you can do yoga. If you like more of a guided meditation or a moving meditation, maybe you want to try Aikido or Tai Chi, that's great. Try and slow it down. This is all about slowing things down and moving through. So, another thing, you want to make sure that if there is something stressing you out, if there's any way at all to remove it or reduce it, do it. Maybe you need to start saying no to people more. Maybe it's going to feel bad, but it still would be best for you. Kristen, you look like you have something to say about that. Go for it.
I want to say things about everything you said, but I'll say it really fast.
Yeah, go.
The exercise. Okay. Yeah. You said don't exercise for several hours a day. Yeah. That can actually increase stress in your body if you're over exercising. So, just moderately, whatever. I mean, you can do you can get your heart rate up certainly, and up and down, but just keep in mind that it's not about, you might love exercising and that's great, do it for as long as you want to, but just, be aware of the fact that you can, actually
Mm.
become more tired or stressed when you over exercise. Sleeping, always going to say good things about that. That's the time your body really has time to process feelings, energy, food, all the things, the cell turnover, everything that goes on along with sleeping, and the way it detoxifies your liver and helps your body. So, plus when you're tired, you feel more anxiety and stress. I know
Mhm.
I have. When I don't get enough sleep, whatever that means, and a good gauge is maybe 7 to 9 hours, but give or take, it depends on you personally. But just don't go under the amount that you sleep. Also, try to be asleep before midnight.
Mm.
Okay, 10 o'clock, great. 11 o'clock, fine. After midnight, that's harder on the body to do its job, and that job is what's going to keep you feeling young, feeling less stress, being able to cope with stress. Also, regulate your appetite hormones so you don't overeat the next day or eat junk food because you just need energy. So sleep is a really, really huge way to combat a lot of stress or be able to cope with it better in your
Mm.
daily life. And I think that's all I was going to say, but there might have been something else. What was the last thing you mentioned? I forget.
When I talked about saying no.
Yeah, the whole idea of phasing in the good self-care things like sleeping and exercising, meditating, and eating well and getting a massage or whatever you like to do that makes you feel good. Start noticing what feels bad, what zaps your energy, what makes you stressed, right? Make the toxic people you might be around, the toxic foods you might want to eat, the too much sugar, the not enough sleep, everything that feels kind of bad. Start noticing it. And you might not be able to eliminate it. And I'm not going to say stop doing all that at one time. That's going
Mhm.
to make the part of your brain that does not like change, we call it the critter brain, go into, sabotage mode. So we just want to slowly but surely just keep adding in the healthier things, and we can then kind of eliminate the things that aren't so healthy. So saying no to people is a good way to protect your own boundaries that way, and in all types of in all ways in your life, actually. So
Mm.
say yes to yourself and the good things that you love doing. How about that?
No, I do love that, because Monday, when I realized I wasn't stressed last week, how can I carry this over? I tried really hard to just look at my to-do list and say, well, what of this do I actually want to do? Right? I mean, there were a few things on there I didn't want to do, but I wanted the outcome. So I will feel happier once I do this. And then, yay, celebrate it. You don't have to throw a party, but just look what I did. This was hard and it's done. I don't recognize those small wins enough, but I know that it makes a difference. And we're leading into the self talk and the thoughts and how they compound our stress. So we're always going to ask that you become self aware. Try and notice that inner narrative. We have a great podcast episode on that critical inner voice that you can listen to. You've got to get a handle on what you're thinking, what you're telling yourself, and how it's making your life so much worse. End of discussion almost. I mean, right?
Yeah, that's the bottom line. It makes everything, it's like where the stress stems from so much of the time, because we start to think, oh, I should be doing this better, I should be better, I'm not good enough, and I'm not
Mm.
worthy. And even if you're not consciously thinking that, that might be somewhere inside of you, that might be what the program's tapes or whatever inner critic is saying to you. And it is hard to be self-aware. Sometimes there are 60,000 thoughts we have a day. How are you supposed to catch all those? But if there's a theme in your life that's showing up where you feel like people are reflecting to you that you don't matter or that you aren't good enough, and you're getting upset about it, look at how you're talking to yourself, because these people the universe is a mirror, a mirroring universe, and it will mirror back to you what you think about yourself. Now, it might be the other person's problems and their projections. Of course, it most likely is. Doesn't mean that you're not worthy. That's the whole point. But when people in your life show up and you already feel like you're not good enough, and then they do something that sort of emphasizes that point, you're going to immediately think, see, I'm not good enough. They just told me that I need to be nicer to people, or they just criticize me in some way. See, I'm not doing anything right. I help people out and they don't thank me and they don't talk to me. And see, I'm such a bad person. And it's like, that's creating so much stress inside of you to talk to yourself that way. And it's a lie. That is not true about you. You may have made mistakes. Maybe there are times you weren't good enough. That is not who you are. Okay. I'm just going to say that. That's my bottom line for you. And if you don't believe me, I understand. None of us really believe that we're all that awesome. And because people tell us we shouldn't think we're so great. Baseline self-love is to not believe the inner bully. Okay. When you believe it, you create emotion around it, and then you create stress around it, and it has all these effects in your life. You got to stop believing that bully. Ignore the bully. We are taught to ignore bullies. Ignore the bully. Don't believe it anymore. If you still believe it and you still feel feelings, don't suppress the feelings. Feel them. I know this is on repeat. This is so redundant. I say this every time. I get so passionate about this. It's so important in changing ourselves, our inner peace, our outer peace with other people. It's just so important. And it's, everyone used to say to me, you're so like idealistic. And it would like kind of hurt my feelings, because I was like, I don't really think I am. I think we can all do this. I really did believe that. And I do to this day. If you do the work, you can change. Bottom line, you just have to want to do the work. And you just have to know it's important that you feel good inside yourself, and that you want to have good relationships and a good job and all the things in life, good health, especially like in this conversation with stress. So I don't think it's that far-fetched at all.
Yeah, no. And while you were talking about that, I was thinking a couple things we can do to combat this inner narrative that's not so positive all the time or cheering us on is to really limit social media, because on there you're comparing yourself to others. And anytime you compare yourself to others, you might come ahead, quote unquote, but that's at a cost, right? If you only feel good about yourself if you're better, quote unquote, better than someone else, that's toxic. And if you're comparing yourself and finding yourself inadequate, that's not going to lead to productivity or motivation, at least not the long-standing kind that builds, right? We want things that build us up. We want to find ways to build ourselves up. There's nothing wrong with telling yourself, you did a great job. Maybe you didn't get your to-do list done, but you did a great job. There's always tomorrow. That's not going to do any damage. It's actually going to help you feel even more excited about the next day to tackle more things. Sometimes we do. We need to treat ourselves like toddlers, make sure we're well rested, fed, we get our playtime, and we talk to ourselves nicely. That's going to get a whole lot more traction with us than being mean and like you said, that bully. So as we wrap up this managing your stress, I want to lead our listeners back. We have so many great episodes. We have one on thoughts. We have one on that inner critic that Kristen was talking about. We have so many great episodes on this that'll help you. We really just want people and ourselves, we're in this practice too, just to learn to love and offer that acceptance to ourselves so we can feel that and offer it to other people as well. It really will make a big difference in our lives.
Yeah, the other thing you mentioned when you were talking a few moments ago made me think of our episode that we just uploaded this week. So I think it might be episode 19. I'm not sure. On perfectionism. That one's a good one to listen to as well. When you're trying to go easier on yourself if you don't get things done. A lot of this is just a lot of good self-talk and really knowing that you're doing the best you can. We're all just doing the best that we can. We're not out to hurt other people. Sometimes we do. We don't mean to. We apologize. We forgive ourselves. We hope they forgive us. If they don't, we at least try our best not to do it again. Everything's about progress. It's not about being perfect. It's about just doing your best and knowing that you're good enough just the way you are right now. And that's gotta be good enough. So, and that will reduce stress, because when you feel like you have to do it perfectly, you're going to feel added stress, and that stress is obviously going to hurt you in big ways, as we've been talking about. So yeah, I wanted to mention that too.
Beautiful. Well, we'll close out. We want to invite our listeners to go to our Facebook page, our Facebook group, Try Self-Love. We want to hear how you manage your own stress. We're always looking for great ideas and advice to give people. And so we'd love to hear ways that you use. anything to manage stress. The good, the bad, the ugly. We want to hear about it. And then I also want to encourage our listeners to take some time to just be still. If you need to watch TV because you don't like the stillness or the quiet, that's fine. Just find some downtime and help offset that stress, because we live in a stressful world right now, especially with this pandemic. So
Yeah, and also we'll be doing a post about the stress in our Facebook group. So please feel free to join our Facebook group and please engage with us. We really, really love hearing from our listeners, engaging, forming relationships with you. And Becky and I are planning on doing videos in our group, just like maybe on Fridays. We're going to try it. I think we're going to try it tomorrow, this week. You guys won't see it till later. Well, you won't know this until now, but we're going to try it this week, which is not the same week as the podcast is going out. I'm just rambling here, but we're going to be doing that. So if you join our group, maybe you'll get to see us. And we just want to talk about little topics for just a few minutes, not anything very long, but just engage with our clients more, our listeners and our group members more. So yeah, we hope you guys will join our group and be a part of our community. We'd really love that. So yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. And Becky, please let us know if you have anything else to add before we close.
Everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks. Bye.